The cold hit harder than usual that morning. Jack Lawson rubbed his hands together as he stepped out of his rusted old pickup truck, breath curling like smoke in the frigid air. He was already late for work at the scrapyard, but no one cared enough to scold him anymore. After all, who would fire a man whose life already felt like it had been tossed into the very heaps of metal he worked around? Jack hadn't always been like this. Just 5 years ago, he had a wife who adored him, and a daughter who used to run to the door every time she heard his boots on the porch. But life has a cruel way of rearranging happiness. First came the diagnosis. His wife, Ella, had stage 4 breast cancer. Then the hospital bills. Then the second job. Then the foreclosure. And then the final goodbye. She died in his arms, whispering that everything would be all right. But nothing had been all right since. Their daughter, Lucy, was all he had left. Her eyes, so much like Ella's, gave him strength. But even that light was dimming. Lucy had developed a rare heart condition last year, the kind of illness that mocked Jack's bank account and sneered at his prayers. Doctors talked in cold, distant terms about surgeries, risks, and costs. Words like specialist and experimental treatment may as well have been foreign languages. So Jack worked. He worked like a dog in the scrapyard by day, and he fixed busted generators and lawnmowers for nickels and dimes by night. Every cent went to Lucy. Every blister, every muscle ache, every cut on his calloused hands, all of it was for her. That morning the snow had fallen thick overnight. Jack grunted as he pulled his coat tighter. The sun was still struggling to break through the gray. It was the kind of day that made the world look like it had been drained of color. As he walked the 3 blocks to the scrapyard because the truck had finally given up last week, he noticed something that made him slow his steps. On the bench outside the old diner, there sat a man wrapped in rags, not just poorly dressed, but truly threadbare. His face was gaunt, beard overgrown and wild, but his eyes were the kind that struck you, blue and clear, with a hint of something unspoken. Jack had seen a lot of homeless people around town lately, but something about this one pulled at him. Maybe it was the way he clutched an empty coffee cup like it was sacred, or maybe it was the way he didn't shiver even though his hands were bare. Jack hesitated. He had packed a modest lunch, just a peanut butter sandwich, a bruised apple, and a thermos of lukewarm coffee. Lucy insisted on making it for him the night before. He could still hear her tiny voice saying, "Daddy, I made it special. The sandwich has extra love." Jack looked at the man again. He sighed. Something inside him told him to stop. "Hey," Jack said, approaching the bench slowly. "You eaten today?" The man looked up. His eyes were sharp, intelligent, not the glazed, dulled look Jack had expected. He didn't answer right away. "No," the man finally said, "but I'm all right." "You don't look all right," Jack replied. He opened his lunchbox and handed the sandwich and apple to the man. "Here, it ain't much, but it'll warm you up a bit." The man took the food slowly, eyes never leaving Jack's. "Thank you. That's rare. A sandwich? Number kindness." Jack gave a half smile and poured some of his coffee into the empty cup. "My daughter made it. Said it had extra love." The man took a sip, and for a second, just a flicker, his expression softened. "She sounds special." "She is. She's my whole world. And you're out here sharing your lunch with a stranger. You look like you needed it more." Jack didn't wait for thanks. He nodded and turned to leave, already thinking of the time he'd lost from work. But as he walked away, he had no idea that a camera had captured the entire exchange from a tinted car window across the street. No clue that his simple act of decency had been seen, not by just anyone, but by someone who could change everything. The rest of the day passed in a blur of cold metal and grease. Jack cut his hand on a sharp edge and had to wrap it in a rag. His stomach grumbled, but he ignored it. He was used to being hungry. When he returned home, Lucy was waiting with a blanket draped over her lap and a cough that rattled his bones every time he heard it. "Did you eat, Daddy?" she asked, brushing back a lock of hair from her face. "Of course," Jack lied. "It was delicious. Extra love, remember?" She smiled, and for a moment, he felt warmth again. That night, the snowstorm grew heavier. The wind howled like a wounded animal. Jack barely slept, haunted by thoughts of the man on the bench. Something about his eyes, the way he had said rare. He couldn't shake the feeling. but nothing could have prepared him for what came next. The next morning, Jack woke to the sound of knocking. Not the polite kind. Heavy, urgent pounding that made him jump out of bed and grab his coat. He opened the door to find two men in black suits standing outside. "Jack Lawson," Jack blinked. "Yeah. We need you to come with us. Now." "What? Why? Who are you?" One of the men held up a sleek black card. There was no name, just a silver emblem, a pair of wings over a crown. "You're about to find out," he said. "And trust me, your life is never going to be the same." The black SUV sliced through the snowy streets like a shark in dark water. Jack sat silently in the back seat, heart pounding, eyes flicking from one suited man to the other. He clutched his coat close, not from the cold anymore, but from sheer confusion. "You mind telling me where we're going?" he asked. "You'll see soon," the man in the passenger seat replied. Every word was vague, calculated. They didn't speak to each other. They didn't even flinch. Jack glanced out the window and realized they were headed away from the town, past the outskirts toward the private airstrip outside Evergrove. "Okay, what the hell is going on?" Jack demanded, his voice firmer now. "You did something yesterday," the driver finally said. "And someone important noticed." Before Jack could press further, the SUV turned through a heavily guarded gate, and within minutes they rolled onto the runway. There it was, a jet, sleek, silver, almost glowing in the weak morning light. The engines purred like a living creature. Jack stared. This can't be real." The door opened. A man stepped out, clean-shaven, sharp suit, leather gloves. But his face, it was him, the homeless man, clean, groomed, standing tall. "You?" Jack gasped. "Good to see you again, Jack," the man said, smiling warmly. "Forgive the deception. I needed to know who you really were." Jack stumbled back a step. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" "Not at all. My name is Nicholas Creed, and I'm going to change your life." Jack's legs went numb. Nicholas Creed? The reclusive billionaire who owned half the tech firms in the state? The man whose name was whispered in business articles and Forbes profiles but rarely seen in public? Why me? Because you gave me your lunch. Because you didn't ask for anything. Because in a world that's lost its soul, you reminded me that goodness still exists. Jack couldn't speak. Nicholas stepped closer. "Get on the jet. I want to show you something." Jack looked back at the SUV, then at the jet. He swallowed hard and nodded. The interior of the jet was like something out of a movie. Marble floors, leather seats, fresh orchids. Jack sat awkwardly, still stunned, as the engines roared to life. "Where are we going?" he asked. "To a place where hope still lives," Nicholas said. "Your daughter's future is about to change." Jack stared at him. "You know about Lucy?" Nicholas nodded. "I know everything." Outside the window, the snowy town of Evergrove shrank below them. Inside the jet, something in Jack shifted. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of something he had buried long ago. Hope. The plane landed hours later in a city Jack had only seen on postcards. Sunlit, gleaming, alive with color and promise. He was taken straight to a hospital, unlike any he had ever imagined. It was private, cutting edge, and already briefed on Lucy's condition. A team of specialists had been flown in from around the globe, and they welcomed Jack like he was family. "What's happening?" Jack asked Nicholas, dazed. Nicholas handed him a folder. Inside were approval forms, prepaid bills, signed waivers. "This," Nicholas said, "is everything she needs. Every treatment, every consultation, every procedure. It's all covered." Jack's hands trembled. "I don't understand. Why are you doing this?" Nicholas placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. "Because sometimes the world needs to see what happens when good people are given a fighting chance. Because I was once in a dark place too, and someone saved me." Tears welled in Jack's eyes. He looked away, trying to keep them from falling. "You're not alone anymore, Jack." A week later, Lucy was flown in, escorted by doctors and comforted by nurses who treated her like royalty. Jack stayed by her side through every test, every consultation, and every time she opened her eyes, she smiled. Stronger, brighter. Nicholas came often, not in suits but in jeans and sweaters, telling Lucy stories, making her laugh. He wasn't just a benefactor. He was becoming family. One night, as Jack stood on the rooftop garden of the hospital, staring at the stars, Nicholas joined him. "What are you thinking about?" Nicholas asked. "How did this happen? How did sharing one sandwich lead to this?" Nicholas smiled. "Because kindness echoes. You gave, expecting nothing. That kind of love changes the world." Jack nodded slowly. "Thank you. You don't owe me thanks. Just promise me one thing." "Anything. When you see someone sitting in the cold, someone invisible to the world, don't walk past them." Jack smiled through tears. "I won't." Months later, Lucy was declared stable. Her condition was no longer terminal. Jack found himself in a new city, working at a foundation run by Nicholas himself, a place that gave second chances to those the world had forgotten. And every day, Jack packed 2 lunches, one for himself, one to share, because he knew now more than ever, a single act of kindness could change a life forever.